Hi, this is Alexandra Landro, and today we will be playing choice games. Okay, so let's pick out one to read, and we'll get started here. I'm gonna play Wizard's Choice. I'll show you guys how to play. It's a game where, so the Delight Games library is a library of a library of free choice games that's got several stories, and you read the story and make choices, and those choices influence the rest of what you're reading, and the story goes into a different direction depending on what choices you make. I'm giving an intro for those who haven't played before. You are a young wizard thinking, okay, let me see here. So I'm on the first book, and the first chapter says, you are a young wizard seeking treasure and glory. You are walking along a path in the forest, one day's journey from Ring City, your beloved home. Night has just fallen, and you're thinking about how it might be a good idea to find a campsite. After all, you're in goblin territory, and it's dangerous to travel in the dark. So this is a medieval setting novel. Suddenly, you smell something awful. Reginald, are you responsible for that outrageous smell? You ask the warrior striding ahead of you. Pray Pray no, I am always downwind from my companions when I squeeze the bellows. Reginald answers, okay, this might be PG-13 rather than PG. Goodness, that first bit. Yeah, you can tell this isn't PG. It's already describing. I'll keep reading, but okay. You realize that you have never encountered this stench before, and it is close. And perhaps it is your imagination, but is that muffled breathing you just heard? What do you do? It is in ambush, you shout. Startled Reginald springs off the ground like a jackrabbit, his chain armor jingling. Just then, out of the brush rush several snarling goblins, their eyes glowing green in the murky darkness. They charge. The leader of the charge is armed with a long dagger. The others carry spears. With an arcane word and a flourish of one hand, you fire a bolt of flame into the leader of the charge. And it comes with pictures. Awesome. Your bolt strikes the goblin, engulfing it in flames. It drops to the ground, thrashing. Reginald hacks down another with his sword. The remaining 3 run away, whooping and yeeping. Their cries are joined by others from the dark forest all around you. Many calls from far too many goblins to fight toe to toe. It's a hunting party, probably tracking wild game. We humans are a delicacy, much better than mutton, Reginald says. You regard the 2 dead goblins on the ground. Dead goblins are worth 10 gold pieces per head in the city. Luckily, you don't need to carry their heads around. The city authorities will accept their left ears. What do you do? I am going to cut the ears off. Get the ears, you exclaim as you pull out your razor-sharp dagger from your belt. For a second, your sometimes slow-witted warrior sidekick doesn't understand. But as you start sawing away at the first ear, he gets the idea and fishes out his own dagger. Soon you have a bloody goblin ear stuffed into your pocket, and Reginald has one of his own. Nasty? Very. However, this is gross. They cut off the goblin's ears, and they actually, it's like, they're like bloody and everything. Oh, no. Okay. However, 10 gold pieces are nearly 6 months of wages to a common laborer, so you're willing to take the hit. What now? Reginald asks. Certainly there are There are excellent places to hide in the forest. If we can just make it until morning. I haven't read aloud in a while, so my voice is choppy. Sorry, guys. True, however, the goblins may have dogs, and their own sense of smell is keen, you say. We might climb a tree then. That would at least be defensible, Reginald suggests. You wish to be tread like a fox with goblins barking underneath? Treed like a fox with goblins barking underneath? If you wish a position that is both defensible and allows some freedom of movement, we should hasten to Castle Inverness. It is near, and Inverness, and we can fortify ourselves behind those walls, Reginald says. You frown. It is a fortress, yes, but inhabited by what? Gods know what manner of creatures may have taken up residence in that ruin over the years. Do we, what do we do? Question is, what do I do? Because, okay, I'm not gonna hide in the forest. I could either garrison in the ruin walls or climb a large tree. Okay. Let us take refuge behind the stone walls of Castle Inverness, you say. Inverness, you say. Goblin hunting calls echo from all around in the forest as the two of you dash up the path 100 meters or so, where you find a fork in the road. The path to the right appears to be seldom used, since it is nearly overgrown. The path to the left is clear, and you think you see firelight down that way. Could this fire belong to the goblins, or, if you're lucky, is it the campfire of another friendly adventuring party? What do you do? So it turns out the fire does belong to goblins. What did you expect? You're in goblin country after all. You've come up to a clearing with two goblins cooking mutton over a fire. Apparently these guys are keener on guarding their next meal than joining the rest of the hunting party. What do you do? Leave them to their meal or attempt to slay them? Reginald readies his bow and notches an arrow. Your companion is a good shot and will likely slay one of them outright. However, then your surprise will be lost. You could ready a fire bolt spell to strike the other goblin, or you could save your power and simply charge forward with your dagger. When Reginald tries his arrow. I shall take the one on the left, you whisper to Reginald. He nods. You clear your mind and prepare your spell. When you hear the thrum of Reginald's bowstring, you release your spell. The bolt of fire hisses as it streaks through the air and smashes against the shoulder of the goblin on the left. He screams and falls to the ground. Meanwhile, Reginald's arrow punches into the other goblin's chest, dropping it. You charge forward. Okay, this is violent. Wow, I can't believe how violent this is. And yet, I'm still reading it. So. You charge forward, pulling your dagger from its sheath. The goblin is still thrashing on the ground, trying to put out the fire as you come up on it. You end its fire quickly with a slash to its throat. "The ears!" shouts Reginald as he sprints into the clearing, his dagger drawn. Cries and yells erupt from several directions in the forest. Obviously, the cries of the doomed goblin had been heard. The two of you cut off the goblin ears for the bounty. In the meantime, the cries of the goblins are drawing nearer. You do not dare to dally here any longer. You run back to the fork in the road and head toward the castle. On the way, you hear a whistle in your ear, then another, and then feel a sting just above your hip. Obviously, they have bows. The wound isn't bad. It's a small arrow shot by a weakling, no doubt. You pull it out without losing stride. After a minute of stumbling down what is best described as a game trail, you see the shadowy husk of the ruin in the moonlight ahead. Unfortunately, the battle cries of your pursuers are closer than ever, and when you look back over your shoulder, you see glowing eyes. The two of you turn on a burst of speed, and soon the outer wall of the castle looms before you. It is about 10 feet high and crumbling. You realize with horror that there are no holes on the side that are large enough to fit through. Meanwhile, Reginald, a faster runner than yourself, has disappeared around the north corner of the wall. A short spear whistles past your head. You look back and see at least 4 of the little beasts. What do you do? Die, filthy vermin, you shout as you turn to face your pursuers. They are not far behind, and you only have to wait a few seconds before they are in range. You shout the spell trigger word, and a gout of flame erupts from your outstretched hand, engulfing 4 goblins. They scream shrilly for a moment, and then fall silent as their flaming bodies crumple to the ground. No more goblins are visible, so you run up to catch Reginald. You run to catch up with Reginald. As you round the north side, you see him above a section of partially crumbled wall. He helps you scramble over the top and onto the rotten gangplank. He grins at you and nods in the direction you came from. Gods, you have struck terror into that advance party. However, they will call for reinforcements. We have the wall. The question remains, can we hold it? We could go in. You point to the castle keep beyond the courtyard. The castle is 3 stories tall, or at least it had been before most of the top floor collapsed. The second story is barely any better. The fortress is as lifeless and still as a painting. Nevertheless, you wonder if anyone is looking back at you from the dark arrow slits of the first floor. What do you suggest? Gods know what's in that castle. Let us fight only one enemy at a time, you say. Soon the forest around you is dotted with glowing sets of eyes. It is difficult to count them as they appear and disappear behind the trees, but you guess 20 or more. Surely they will attack from all sides at once, says Reginald, and they can see at night like we can see in the day. You consider the long dry grass of the courtyard below. With some lamp oil you could start a fine brush fire down there. The light of it could, perhaps, even the odds on these nocturnal creatures. You could even cast a spell upon the fire to create a blinding flash. But you are not sure you want to leave the wall to carry out such an unconventional plan. They may attack while you are away, leaving only Reginald to defend the walls. You wonder how long the goblins will take to muster their forces. Your question is immediately answered as you hear a battle cry, high-pitched, furious, and seemingly on the edge of panic. It erupts from the forest as a tide of little green evil eyes surge forward. What do you do? Without a moment to lose, you jump down into the courtyard, empty a flask of oil onto the dry grass, and light it. The fire spreads rapidly. You ascend a ladder against the wall to rejoin Reginald. Gods help us, they come from all sides, you shout. Reginald does not answer as he works his bow. Thrum, thrum goes the string. Soon several of the goblins have scaled the far wall. 2 have dropped down into the courtyard while another charges upon the rickety battlement walkway towards you. Others follow, and then still more from the east and west walls. You can see them clearly thanks to the courtyard brush fire. You dare not wait any longer. Reginald, close your eyes, you shout, and then loose the spell. Crack, you see bright pink behind your shut eyelids. The fire has become a brilliant flash, a brief pulse brighter than full daylight. You wait a second. It will take that long for the flare to die down. Now the little monsters are shielding their glowing eyes and screaming. One of them stumbles headlong off the battlement. Kill them all, and be quick about it. They will not be blind for long, you shout as you reach into the folds of your robe and pull out a dagger. Reginald slings his bow and unsheathes his long sword. The goblins, still standing, are now waving their short swords and spears blindly in front of them. Reginald effortlessly bats their weapons outside with his long sword. With a single mighty cleave per creature, he cuts the goblins down one after the other. For you, using a blade to dispatch foes is demanding and dangerous. Blind or not, those vicious little monsters will slash and bite for their lives. Nevertheless, a long knife requires no mana, so you quickly get to work. You jump down into the courtyard where you have more room to maneuver. You run behind each goblin, thrust in your dagger, and immediately spring backward before your victim has a chance to swing at you. You smile to yourself. You're really on a roll. Gods, I hate goblins, you think. just as you consider singing a song to better mock your blinded quarry. More of the little beasts come, a lot more. They scuttle over the walls like cockroaches. To the castle you shout. Once across the courtyard, you open the large wooden double doors, which shriek on rusty hinges. Inside, Reginald slams and bars the doors. The entrance chamber is large with a high-vaulted ceiling. The stone walls are cracked and flaking. The ground is strewn and loose with loose rubble. The air is stale. Aside from the double doors behind you, there are closed wooden doors on the north, east, and west walls. Near the north door there is a stairway going up, but it is blocked by rubble. It is not long before the front door has begun to rattle violently. Through a nearby arrow slit you can see glowing eyes and the glint of axes chopping away at the door. You're not sure how long the barred portal will hold them. Reginald wants to hide deeper in the castle. On the other hand, this place smells of death. It might be prudent to take a few seconds to investigate the room and doors. You motion to Reginald to check the east door. You inspect the ground and see there has been traffic through here. Some of the tracks on the dusty floor appear to be from human-sized shoes or boots, while others appear to be from bare feet, far too large to be from men. None of the tracks appear to belong to goblins. Listening, you can't hear anything over the goblins thumping and screaming outside. You direct the light of your lantern at the northern door and are about to turn toward the eastern door when something catches your attention. Was that an eye, you wonder? You think you caught a glimpse of a glistening eyeball through a rotting hole in the northern door. Casually, as though just taking another look around, you sweep your lantern light over the door again, pushing for just an instant at that spot. Yes, that was an eye. You're being watched, and although your glimpse of it was fleeting, you could tell the eye did not belong to a human. The white of the orb is pink with blood, while the retina is pitch black and large. You would like to get a better look at the creature. There is a minor spell you normally use to magically open doors from a distance. You find it tedious opening doors yourself. As long as the door is unlocked, you could use this lazy wizard spell to open the eye door without being so close. On the other hand, that may frighten or anger whomever that eye belongs to. Perhaps you should just talk to it? Maybe you can join forces against the goblins? Alternatively, you might be able to hurl a bolt of fire through that eye hole. Not an easy shot, but you have the element of surprise. Finally, there's the running option, a choice that has been keeping wizards alive for thousands of years. What do you do? Amazingly, you make the shot. Unfortunately, the possessor of the eye must have seen you look right at it as you wound up for the spell. The eye disappears just before your bolt of fire spatters around and through the hole. Crack! The door explodes open. The light of your lantern streams into the doorway to reveal a hug monster. A huge monster. A blackened spot on the firebolt struck. He holds a massive spiked club in one hand and a melon-sized rock in the other. He steps into the room. Neville's tongue! It's an ogre! It's an ogre, Reginald shouts. The ogre slams his club against Reginald's shield, sending him careening into another wall. Just then, the front doors of the castle burst open. Like a tidal wave crashing on the beach, a heap of goblins falls into the room, creatures one on top of the other. A chorus of glee erupts from their fang mouths. Arrows and spears fly over and between the goblins in front. Unfortunately, you are struck by a spear. Luckily, it's only a flesh wound. Meanwhile, the ogre rears in rage, throwing his rock at the first goblin and striking it in the chest with such a nasty cracking sound that you know the goblin will never get up. Reginald and you nearly collide in your haste through the eastern portal. Once through, you slam the door closed. From the entrance chamber you just left come goblin yips of triumph, which then turn into screams of terror that are immediately drowned out by an earth-shaking snarl. Next is the sharp slapping of flesh against flesh and the wet sound of bodies ripping apart. You run from one room to the next. The ogre is not much of a housekeeper. The castle is full of giant cobwebs and broken furniture. Finally, you enter a larger room, a dining room, and as evidenced by a long wooden table and two fireplaces. You motion to Reginald to stop, and you both listen. Faintly, you can hear the far-off sounds of battle from behind you. Can't leave that way, you think. Just then, you hear something else, labored breathing, and is that crying? For glory in the loot, you think to yourself as you take the lead. You quickly realize that the sound seems to be coming from this very room. You creep over to the other end of the dining hall and see a young woman sitting on the floor, chained to the wall, her head down. She looks up at you with an expression of fear that quickly turns to surprise. Who are you? She asks. You tell her your names, and that you are here to smite evil while making your fortunes. This brings a smile to her face, a pretty smile, you suspect. although it's hard to tell under all the dirt smudged on her face. She gives her name as Saiba and says, "There is a key to her chains on the table." Sure enough, besides cracked and dusty china, is a small brass key. As you set about unlocking her, she tells you that she is a merchant's daughter who was traveling with her father's trade caravan when it was attacked by a mighty ogre with a small band of priests of an evil god, wearing dark cloaks. Those of her party not killed in the initial attack were taken prisoner and chained up in this room. One by one they were taken away by the priests, never to return. "They took my father," Saiba sniffs. "No doubt he is slain, but I must try to find him. Will you help me?" You ask her if she has any idea where her father or the others might be, but she knows little of the rest of the castle. Reginald takes you aside and says, "Ought we to take her to safety and then look for her father on our own? She will be in danger traveling with us." You agree that having some half-starved, unarmed merchant's daughter tripping along behind you will only get her killed. But where is safety? Last time you checked, the courtyard was crawling with goblins, and according to her, the castle residents are not very good hosts. What do you do? Saiba seems like a nice enough young woman, but as a merchant's daughter, she is not a very good addition to the adventuring party, and so you were eager to escort her out of the castle as quickly as possible. Between Reginald's clinking chainmail armor and Saiba's incessant sniffling and muttering about her father, the three of you are not the stealthy party you wish to be. After some searching, you find a hole in the wall of the castle large enough for a human to fit through. Reginald gives you a boost up to the hole and you look out. "Neville's tongue," you curse in your head. Glowing eyes dot the courtyard outside. You get down and you tell the others the bad news. As you're describing what you saw, there's a sudden jolt of numbing cold in your back. You cry out in pain and turn to see a cloaked man barely visible in the light cast by the shuttered lantern in his hand. He is pointing at you with his other hand. Perhaps this is one of the evil priests Saiba spoke of? As you slump back against the wall, Saiba cowers in the corner. Reginald unsheathes his sword and charges. The cloaked man runs. By the time you recover from the pain and stand up, Reginald is walking briskly back into the chamber. "That sneaky devil eluded me," he says, and then curses. "I would bet my last copper he is off gathering allies to come back for us. We must move on," you say. As you hasten away from that wing of the ruin, the three of you agree Saiba should hide for now. There are a ton of hiding places in this ruin. You find a nice pile of rubble for her to hide behind several rooms away. "Stay still and quiet here. We will return." "Well, if we do not return by morning, escape as best you can," you instruct her. "Clever," Reginald says as you leave her. "If her abductors find her missing, they will not expect her to remain in the castle. With luck, they will leave the castle altogether to search, and we can explore unhindered," you say with a smile. The castle is quiet and dark. You walk into a wide hallway that branches in two directions. One direction is covered in thick layers of dust, while the other is covered in footprints. You decide that it would be wise to get a lay of the land before looking for any trouble. Despite the faint smell of rotting flesh from the dusty hall, you decide that it would be best to go this way first. Less monsters, more treasure, or at least you hope. You've kept your lantern hooded, only allowing slivers of light out. After all, you want to remain stealthy. The way is dim, however, and you find yourself tripping over rubble and an odd piece of furniture. Ahead, there is the stench of rot, making you wonder if there is something terrible hidden in the shadows. Too bad you can't see in the dark like a goblin. You take it slow in the dark. Still, you stumble a few times, but at least you're not shining like a lighthouse to all your enemies. Soon the cobwebs thicken and thicken, and what's this? You find yourself stuck to one particularly thick strand of web. As you take the hood off your lantern to better appraise the situation, something heavy lands on your shoulders. "Spider!" Reginald yelps. His sword is out, and he swings it down hard on top of you. Presently, your back is covered with greenish, oozing spider blood. The monstrously large spider is black with long, matted fur. It now lies motionless on the floor. Reginald unhoods his lantern and plays the light on the ceiling above. There are no more spiders, just thick webs dotted with small, silly cocoons that you suspect might encase rats or other small prey. Reginald, okay. Now that the immediate crisis is over, you notice you're in pain. Reginald, who has never been a lover of spiders, cut your shoulder in his zeal to kill the thing. You don't hold it against him. He meant well, and it is far better to get a gouge from a sword than an injection of venom from something like that. Reginald does his best to bandage you up, and then you proceed down the hall. Your lanterns are no longer hooded, however. You want to get a better look around, and you pay particular attention to the ceiling. Eventually, the two of you make your way to a spiral staircase going up. The upper regions of foul places like this are safer than the lower levels, says Reginald. Why in Neville's tongue would that be, you say? Reginald shrugs. Do not ask me what is in the mind of fiends and evil-hearted beasts. Perhaps they prefer the darkness and stagnant or below ground, in stagnant air below ground. You look up the stairway and sigh. Well, perhaps we can get a view of the courtyard and the goblins from up there. Reginald leads the way to the stairs, which lead into a small tower. Moonlight filters in through 2 windows. This room is finely furnished, and otherwise much more nicely kept than the rest of the castle you've visited so far. There is a small bed, still made on one end, an ornate table, and a bookshelf. On the table is an open fairy tale book and a gold-embossed hand mirror. Seeing loot, you forget about the windows and the potential view of the courtyard. You pick up the mirror to inspect it. "Strange," says Reginald. "There's no dust up here. And do you feel a draught?" "We are in a ruin," you say. "Of course there's a draught." "The glass in the windows are still intact," mutters Reginald. Gazing at your reflection in the mirror, you decide you look pretty good, all things considered. You brush cobwebs from your wavy brown hair. You smile. You're happy to see that your teeth are looking particularly good. Of course you deserve nice teeth, since unlike most people you know, you take care of them. Every morning you wipe your teeth with a cloth dipped into a cleaning concoction consisting of vinegar, salt, a little sand, and a small measure of your own urine. Oh, okay, that just got gross. That just got disgusting, more like. You are about to pull yourself away from the mirror and put it in your backpack. Hey guys, this is me reading, and I'm close to the end of the chapter, so to pull yourself away from the mirror and put it in your backpack when you glimpse a translucent skull with thin wispy hair just behind you in the reflection. You spin around and see not a skull but a young girl floating a few feet in the air, her pale face fixed on you. Reginald sees her too, as evidenced by him running down the stairway. "How dare you touch what is mine?" the ghostly girl shouts. "I can't shout." You back up and reflexively put the mirror back on the table. You have heard tales of powerful ghosts that can suck the life right out of you, and wonder if the girl is one of those. You decide that it's high time to do what most people do when meeting a ghost. Run. You point to the bookshelf behind the ghost, and when she looks, you sprint for the door. That old distraction trick does not appear to work on the undead. Before you can reach the door, she loses an ear-splitting scream. The small bed slides across the room, slamming into your legs from behind and knocking you headlong down the stairway. You land hard and blood streams into your vision. You get up and continue down the stairs. There is wailing and crashing above, but fortunately the ghost does not fall beyond a room. You immediately find Reginald, for he had not strayed far. He begins asking you questions, but you just put up your hand. "Another time," you say. The two of you continue through the castle. Occasionally you hear distant things, a shout, a crash, even voices. Soon you come to a door with light streaming out through its cracks. You open the door ever so slightly and peek in. You see a cloaked man frantically pacing back and forth, a torch in his hand. His cloak is open, revealing a muscled frame inked with tattoos. You think you make out at least one of the tattoos to be the symbol of Nerul, goddess of the dead. This reminds you of the tattooed body of a man hung in the city square only a month ago. He was believed to be an evil priest of Nerul and was accused of terrible crimes, including raising zombies. Focusing on the rest of the room, your fear is quickly confirmed. There is a large stone symbol of Nerul built into the wall. The stonework appears to be of new construction. In addition, there is a luxurious curtain adorning the wall, as well as a number of simple beds. Like all priests of Nerul are wise and of strong willpower. They also are able to harvest power from their deity to cast dangerous spells. However, you have the element of surprise, and there's only one of them. Attack with spells. You nod to Reginald, and the two of you burst into the room. Your query appears young, although his face is scarred. He looks at you with the expression of a man who is presently soiling himself. He ducks back as Reginald swings his sword, but not fast enough. The blade slashes his shoulder. He tries to run while chanting something, likely a prayer to his foul god. You strike him in the back with a bolt of flame that engulfs his cloak in fire. He screams and thrashes past before Reginald cuts him down with one great leave. Perhaps now that I reflect upon this, we should have tried to keep him alive. We still know not the fate of the rest of the caravan, you say with a frown. In battle there is no time for regret, and not a scratch on us. This time I call that victory, declares Reginald. Now that you are in the room, you can see that you're in the living quarters. There are simple beds along the wall and a good-sized chest in the corner. Treasure, you think, as you run over and try to lift the lid. Locked. That Nerulian priest did not die quietly, so perhaps you should have Reginald smash the lid with his sword and then get out of here. On the other hand, there ought to be a key around somewhere. Maybe you should take a few seconds to check. You stand guard while I search, you say to Reginald. You kick the body of the priest over. The corpse is a bloody mess, but you don't have time to be dainty about it. The man is nude, other than the cloak and a golden amulet around his neck. The amulet is an unholy symbol of Nerul, the goddess of the undead. You would never keep gold, so you could have it melted down. You rummage through a sticky cloak. Sure enough, you find a key. You trot over to the chest, key in hand. The key is the same hue of metal as the lock, and you are optimistic that it will fit. You are fumbling with the key when you hear something off in the distance, and a chill goes down your spine. Are more coming? Did they hear the priest cry out? Normally you are cautious with chests, having heard that they are sometimes trapped. However, searching this chest for traps will take time, and you're not particularly skilled in trap detection. What kind of booby trap is going to spring on someone with the proper key? You think to yourself. You carefully insert the key into the lock. It's a fit. You close your eyes as you turn the key. The top of the chest pops open as though on a spring, and nothing happens. You exhale in relief. Inside, a bag full of gold pieces, some platinum engraved china, and a small black-bound writing book. You gather up your loot and hurry out of the room. The two of you have only taken a few steps into the dark hallway when you see flickering light up ahead. You could run back into the room and hide, prepare a firebolt to cast down the hall, or cast an illusion to try to distract whoever is coming. Hide, you whisper to Reginald as you run back into the room and dive behind the curtain. Meanwhile, Reginald presses himself against the wall behind the open door. It seems like you've been in your hiding place for only a few seconds when you hear hurried footsteps in the room. Veldaki is slain, you hear a Tweedy voice say, butchered, and his chest is pillaged. You hear another voice say, this one close by. You imagine whoever it is glaring down at the empty treasure chest. You know there are at least 2 men out there. You leap up from behind the curtain with your dagger drawn. The nearest Nerulian priest gasps in surprise. You hear "Slay" from the other priest, and you dodge, but not fast enough. Painful cold radiates out from where you were struck by his dark magic. You jump onto a nearby bed and launch yourself at the nearest priest, who shrieks as you stab him over and over. Meanwhile, Reginald has made quick work of the other one with his longsword. Jesse, did Dad get Wi-Fi?
No.
Oh. take the time to search the bodies and find golden and holy symbol medallions on each of them, as well as one fine silver dagger. Not bad for 20 seconds of work. I tire of looting corpses. Let us be off to find the merchants, and by them a glorious reward, you exclaim. Off you go deeper into the castle. Soon you find yourself in a library. However, all the books are gone from the tall wooden shelves, either stolen or destroyed. As a wizard, this is disappointing to you. All castle libraries have secret doors, you announce. After searching for a little while, you notice a small statue of a winged boy reading a book, worked into the stone wall. You press on the statue's arm, and it shifts down. There is a grinding sound, and you see the bookshelf nearby crack open from the wall. You wedge your fingers into the gap and pry open the door. Immediately before you are stairs descending down a stairway that is lit by a faint green light. Dear reader, normally I would give you a choice of whether or not you go down the stairs, but really who finds a secret door and chooses not to investigate? And so you descend a few steps and then listen. It's deathly quiet down here and chilly. You urge Reginald to take the lead. After all, he's wearing the armor. Where is this green light coming from? Holding a sword at the ready. It is, asks Reginald, holding a sword at the ready. It is as though, he gulps, as though it oozes out of the walls. Highly unusual, I will admit, you say, magic of some sort. I do not need a wizard to tell me that it is magic of some sort. Unlike you, I am not comfortable with the unnatural. I trust your magic and only your magic, and that barely. Well, I am fairly certain that down these stairs is where the treasure is, or at least where the glory is. You say, where the evil is, mutters Reginald as he begins climbing down, taking the lead. There is a small metal lever on the inside of the passage that you suppose is what you use to open the door from the inside. Nevertheless, you decide to leave the door open. The last thing you need is to get trapped in this nasty smelling place. It is some time before you finally reach a small, empty chamber. There is a mysterious mist that is settled near the floor, which Reginald expresses his displeasure with. On the far wall is a large iron door. Scrawled over the door, in rusty red dye, or more likely dried blood, is a set of elaborate symbols. Gods, what is that? Says Reginald, pointing his sword at the door. It is writing in the infernal tongue, you say, a language of devils, demons, and other beasts that inhabit the nightmare universes. At times I do not envy your knowledge, says Reginald with a faint shudder. The study of magic leads to many dark places, you say. The trick is not to wander too far into the void. What does it say? Asks Reginald in a tone that is not at all enthusiastic or curious. You study the symbols. They are crudely drawn, as though in haste, perhaps scrawled by bloody fingers. I cannot be sure. I believe it is a word of some sort, a protection spell. A protective spell using such a foul language? Reginald sniffs. I would expect a curse or a fiendish summoning. It is protection against such a summoning, a barrier, you say. Evil knows evil best, and a spell-caster of black magic understands the need to protect himself from the terrors they bring into this world. Reginald grimaces and points the tip of his sword at the warded door. Only a fool would go down there, although I am more a man of curiosity than wisdom. You slap his shoulder, making a dull sound against his breastplate, as you have proven time and again. Maybe there's a treasure room beyond? You joke. Fortune and glory, my friend, Reginald says with a broad smile. The large iron door shudders and screeches as Reginald slowly pries it open. Once open, your friend's face drops, and you soon realize why. A powerful stench wafts up from the dark stairs below. He takes a deep breath and plunges down the stairway. The two of you descend for some time before you enter a large room eerily illuminated by a green floating torches fastened to each of the walls. Near the far wall is a dais leading up to an altar with skulls inlaid into the frame. Some human, others of animals or perhaps monsters. The lower altar is blood-stained and covered with candles and golden candle holders arranged around a book. The book is bound in what might very well be mummified human skin, with hand and finger bones embedded into the cover as though the book were in the grasp of the dead. The title is in Infernal, but you don't recognize the words. Beyond the book is a raised part of the altar, white stone, seemingly scoured clean of bloodstains. The surface has more candles, a golden cup, and a large golden bowl filled with some dark liquid, maybe blood. Just before the altar is a narrow but deep pit. Shining the lantern in, you make out something gleaming white. A skeletal arm and hand. Reginald adds its light to yours, and you can now see a heap of bodies at various stages of decay. The heap is crawling with rats and other vile scavengers. Sacrifice is the source of the stench. You mutter, I would bet my last copper that Saiba's father and the rest of the caravan are among them. Reginald makes a face of disgust. I say we swiftly pilfer what we can from this unholy place and leave. As he says this, the bowl on the upper altar begins to tremble as the candlelight around it ripples. Something is coming, you whisper. It is already here, says Reginald. Smoke billows up from the bowl and begins taking the form of a horned fiend. His glowing, pitiless eyes rave about the chamber, taking in everything. Demon, you shout. Despite the terrified look on his face, Reginald has already unslung his backpack as though preparing to scoop valuables from the altar. You might have the right idea. After all, you came here for loot, and it might take a moment for this shadow beast to fully take form. That strange book might be valuable. Finally, you can disrupt this fiend's arrival by knocking over the bowl. But how do you dare? After all, this monster hasn't acknowledged you yet, and messing about with this bowl was likely a dangerous way to introduce yourself. Loot and run, you whisper as you open your backpack and toss the book into your bag. Reginald gets to work, blowing out candles and throwing the golden candlesticks into his backpack. You follow his example. You've nearly cleaned off the lower table of the altar when you hear, "Your souls are mine." The voice is a hiss, and its words are in the infernal language. "Now we run," you shout as you turn, slinging on your backpack. A terrible cold grips your shoulder, making you scream. Breaking free of the cold, you bolt up the stairs, leaping 3 steps at a time. There's a There is a wheezing snarl not far behind. You make it through the large iron door. The door is heavy and the hinges are tight. Nevertheless, you expect that if you hurl your weight against it, you can knock it shut. But this will take time, and the demon is nearly upon. You decide there's no time for anything but running. "Freedom!" comes a raspy shout, followed by laughter. You turn on the speed for the next stairway and have nearly caught up to Reginald at the top when you feel a sudden overpowering chill. "Let me in," hisses a voice in your head. You resist, and it is like your soul is being ripped apart. Despite your pain, you keep going, following Reginald out of the secret door, out of the library, and down several passageways. Rounding a corner, you are suddenly in a large room filled with the soft light of dozens of candles. In the middle are 3 of the evil priests, holding hands and surrounding what appears to be a pile of corpses. The men are chanting in the infernal language. One of the corpses begins to twitch. Just to the side of the priest stands the massive ogre. The ogre fixes his cold dark eyes upon Reginald. Meanwhile, the corpse that had been twitching springs up to his feet with alarming speed. You think you recognize him as one of the priests you killed earlier. The undead creature levels its hungry gaze upon you. "Kill them all," you shout. Reginald answers your call admirably, first intercepting one undead corpse with a mighty slash of his sword, completely decapitating it. The red eyes go dull, and the thing flops to the floor. Unfortunately, he put so much power into the swing that he is now off balance. The ogre steps in and smashes him in the side with its club. Reginald flies against the wall. You rush in with your dagger, stabbing. The ogre snarls in pain, pushes you away, and swings his mighty club. Wham! You feel your bones crack and you hit the floor. Alas, you finally succumb to your wounds and collapse. Okay, so I'm done playing that for today, guys. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.